Dude, I keep seeing more wild shit coming out about Trump assassination stuff. Like, there was a gal from the FBI in the grandstand behind him. She was one of the ones that was identified as looking over. And if I had the video, I'd pull it up. But she's the one that was looking over and then was looking back and then, like, didn't look shocked at all when everything was happening. In fact, she pulls her phone up and starts, like, either videoing or taking some pictures.
Instead of ducking or screaming.
Yeah.
Well,
but, conspiracy theorists, abound right now in this shit. But it's fascinating, the mess ups that Secret Service is, that they're admitting to. Like the slope of the roof thing.
Well, and you had 2 counter sniper teams. How the fuck did you not see them? People on the ground could see them.
I don't. The whole thing is bad. The whole thing is bad. Like, how do you actually come out and admit that, well, we looked at that building and identified that building as being, a prime target, but we decided that it was unsafe to put agents or snipers on that roof. But yet they put snipers to, him and his back right behind Trump on an identical roof slope.
Yeah, looking right at
these people.
Shooter.
I mean, who's taking them seriously, dude? I mean, I don't take any of these people. These are the same buffoons that came up with and pushed the magic bullet theory with Kennedy.
Yeah.
Right? Through the Warren Commission and all of that. Like, the laws of physics apparently just
didn't apply to that bullet
during assassination attempts, apparently.
Well, and then
or common sense. I don't know.
And then the AR haters.
Of course. Of course.
Like, literally have to show them the bullets from a 5.62 NATO or 2.23 and show them that compared to a hunting round.
Yeah.
I mean, an AR round is not a high damage round.
It's so ridiculous.
And the amount of people that believe AR stands for assault rifle.
Oh, I know.
Instead of Armalite rifles, who actually invented the gun and then sold the patent to Colt in 1969, where they launched the M16 military version. 15 was just a model number.
These are the people that take words, right? We're always talking about language and how important it is, right? These are the people that take words and meander them into certain areas. And they've almost frightened themselves by trying to do that.
Well, these are the same people that...
And it's comical.
Look at COVID. I'm sure you've seen the memes that talked about how ridiculous Trump looked with the bandage over his ear.
Oh, yeah. Oh, is this bandage this big necessary? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, these are the same people that were wearing masks in their cars by themselves.
Yeah.
And still are.
Yeah. Biden getting COVID for the 3rd time.
After 6 shots.
I mean, I will at least say that he is part of the vulnerable population. Right? So, I mean, at least it's not like Ron DeSantis out there getting it. I mean, he's about my age, a few years younger than you even. At least it's not him out there getting COVID for the 3rd time. And I'm not saying it's good that Biden gets the flu either, but I'm just saying, at least he is in.
At least he doesn't remember it. At least he doesn't remember it.
He certainly won't remember it.
I mean, that takes us to the next point. How in the hell can anybody in the Democratic Party think that he's fit for the office?
Oh, I don't. I
mean, how can anybody? I don't care how much of a hardcore liberal you are, but how can you look at that man and think that he's fit to rule the greatest nation on earth?
This is why I don't take any of these people seriously. Anybody that, since he announced that he was going to run again, anybody that was continuing to say that this was a good idea, are the same people now that are saying he should step aside. And you know what's changed? Nothing.
They can't hide it anymore.
Nothing's changed except it's now July, the middle of July, instead of it being whatever, December, November, whatever the hell. But to me, what annoys me about this, and I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I'm barely even calling myself libertarian anymore, bro. But what I'm just saying is the people that are out there are saying that this election is about democracy.
The threat to democracy
are the same people that pushed forward a nominee that looks like he may be within the next 24 to 48 hours, or by Sunday, I think maybe I heard, that he may be stepping aside.
I think the pressure's too much. He's getting too much heat from his own party.
But these are the people that took away the voice of the people to properly nominate a replacement. So now they're going to go to the convention, and some of the people are going to get to have their say, but only the delegates at the convention. It's not the same as what, Trump and what, Biden had to do last time.
Yeah, which actually
an open primary and all this stuff. I mean, it's an open convention, but a convention is not the same as people going to the poll in each state and saying, listen, this is who we want here. This is who we want here.
Well, and after watching the Trump debate, there's no way in hell he could have handled the primary debate.
Why is nobody saying that they're gigantic hypocrites for saying democracy is on the ballot, but oh, by the way, we're going to go to convention and we're going to nominate, the party's guy instead of the people it's so backwards, man. I can't.
But they'll never admit it. That's the most frustrating thing.
And where is anybody calling them out on it, though? I mean, you know that the mainstream media is not going to do it because they're just puppets. But where are the rest of these podcasters? And maybe I'm just missing it. Obviously I don't watch and listen to them all, but it's kind of like, again, where have the reasonable people gone?
They're labeled as tyrants, outcasts, insurrectionists.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
If you have a free mind and a free will, then you're clearly against them. I mean, look at even going back to COVID and all the shit that you and I have gone through and seen that if you don't align strictly with what their beliefs are, you're a shunned outcast.
Right.
But after last week, my two favorite ones, I don't understand, again, how anybody could possibly defend his actions and his state of mind. I'd like to introduce you to the president of Ukraine, Vladimir Putin.
Vice President
Zelensky standing right there. And that was the other one. I wouldn't have endorsed Vice President Trump if she wasn't qualified.
Yeah. I mean, the dude is a disaster. And at this point, I feel bad for him.
Yeah, the Trump debate, that was...
to me, even the big boy conference... this is the standard now is that it's after 8 p.m. and he can give a 90-minute press conference with the softest of softball questions, and it's like, oh, look, it's after his bedtime, and he can speak semi-coherently for 90 minutes. Like, give me a break.
He was just tired during that debate because he just traveled.
Again, to your point, how is anybody justifying this dude staying in?
No, it's scary. It's actually not just whether you like Trump or you don't, or you like Biden or you don't. It's just he's mentally incapable of doing the job.
And listen, I sort of understand why people might be saying the exact same thing about Trump. This is the first time that a party has nominated somebody with felony convictions. All this
felony
other
convictions.
I know, but I'm trying to play devil's advocate a little bit here. So people that weren't, that are Republicans that necessarily didn't want Trump as the nominee, they're going to be doing one of two things. They're either going to say, yeah, I'm still Republican, but I'm not voting for that guy. I may go JF or RFK, or they just decided to say, yeah, it's party above their principle maybe. And they're just going to say, yeah, I'm towing the Republican line, and that's our guy. And that does happen. And it happens on both parties. And that's part of the reason why all those people were saying, Joe's our guy, I'm riding with Biden. And then it's like the car is falling apart, and they're going, yo, how are we going to get out of this mess?
Yeah, look at the man who's driving. I got to get out of the car now.
For real.
But, it's funny that we talk about Trump's nomination. It was actually the first time he got the GOP nomination. That was the night that I quit calling myself a Republican. Because during that entire campaign, that entire primary season, the RNC strictly stood up and said, we will not endorse Trump. We will not endorse Trump. We will not do it. And the convention rolls around. Hey, Trump's our guy.
Oh, yeah.
He's in.
I do remember that, yeah.
I'm like, you turncoat, sellout sons of bitches.
Yeah.
You've been beating your chest for months that you're not going to endorse the guy. When you realize he's the only option you've got, then you endorse him. Right.
Power is a funny thing, isn't it? And most times people don't want to give up the power. And they'll do whatever they can something's falling off the ceiling over here.
I would say, yep,
There it goes.
there it goes.
Fine. The funny part is that, again, that's what I'm saying, sort of party over principle, and it's kind of like, you're kind of just willing to slough some of these things off to the side. So, that's why I understand, some of those people might be saying the same thing. Holy shit, this is the best that this party has, when there's clearly some good folks behind both of these nominees on either side.
There's a lot of other candidates too that didn't get a chance that I thought would make a great VP candidate or presidential candidate.
Yeah.
I still like Marco Rubio.
Yeah.
I mean, the list is very long of people that are ready to step up and take the next generation, if you will, of the RNC.
It'll be interesting to see in the next few days what happens if Biden does step down. Who is going to be the mantle bearer, the torch bearer?
The names are scary.
Forward. It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. Ever want to say President Whitmer?
Ew, no. Or even vice president.
Yeah.
Because I don't think a lot of people here in Michigan even understand that if she were part of a ticket that were to win, we don't have another election here in Michigan. We get stuck with Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist, who is just a damp rag to me.
Yeah, just a puppet.
Yeah. But maybe a very nice guy, but I don't think he has a spine.
Governor Newsom from California, his name's been tossed out there. Whitmer's name's tossed out there, and then Kamala Harris, who.
Yeah, she's a nightmare waiting to happen. I mean, she's one of the least liked politicians in the country.
It's because she's actually, if you think about it now, she's on the same wave as what Biden is currently. Just absolutely clueless.
Yeah, exactly. And what was her big issue? The border? Yeah. Wasn't that her thing?
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's not going very well.
Well, and she also, I will give her credit for this. She has not fallen off the steps of Air Force One. She's not fallen over on a bicycle. She's not shaking hands with imaginary people.
Yet.
She hasn't misspoke as far as Ukraine's president.
Ugh.
His biggest adversary yet.
I put nothing past any of them.
You remember this though. Ukraine is a country in Europe. Russia's trying to invade Ukraine, and that's a bad thing. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's your
brilliance.
Explanation.
That is, yes. I mean, all I can think of is Montel Jordan when I think of Kamala Harris, and that.
Now you got that song stuck in my head.
And that video of them like walking, whatever. It's like him and his hose.
It's going to be an interesting election. I mean, I'm from one, not a conspiracy theorist, but I do think there was a lot of hokey bullshit in that last election. Because I do believe there was vote tampering. Yeah. Beyond a shadow of a doubt.
To me, also, when you have to repeat things over and over so many times, like, whoa, this is the most safe and fair election in history.
Not even close. Not when people are finding ballots on the side of the road or in ditches.
I just don't believe that, but I feel like when they have to say that so many times,
it's kind of like,
true. Right, exactly. I definitely think that there was, some stuff that happened here in Michigan with ballot fraud and some other things. We're going to see what the numbers look like, moving forward.
I don't think they have
changed here in Michigan now, where you can't local challenges can't be made at polling locations or challenging ballots.
Well, and they basically implemented new laws for voting that actually stops anybody from questioning the results.
It moves those questions to the Attorney General's office. And
imagine who our Attorney General is.
Yeah. I mean, it's a partisan. I don't think there have been many times where there has been opposite parties represented, the governor and the Attorney General. I'm not enough of a political historian here in Michigan to know, but usually you would want those challenges, and they have historically by law been locally. And they're using the last election and intimidation tactics as the reason why to move those challenges out of the local townships and air those areas and move them to the state so the Attorney General can look at them, and I think the Michigan Election Commission. And to me, centralized anything is a
It's a bad idea.
Bad idea.
Can you imagine how objectively Dana Nessel would look at that?
Oh, not
She
at
wouldn't even
all.
look at it.
Not at all. Well, I think Benson has 5 or 6 now unconstitutional rulings for some of the stuff that she has tried to do, and then we get these challenges taken away from local control. Now, I mean, that's
but she likes to party.
That's a recipe for disaster. Bloody Mary Dana.
Oh,
yeah, I know, right? Yeah. So one of the other things that I had talked about before, and I don't think I'll have to go back and I'll reference I'll throw the link to the episode where I talked about green energy. So this was back when beginning of the year when Gretchen Whitmer came out and did her State of the State address, and she talked about her green energy plan for Michigan.
Yeah, when she started talking about putting charging strips in the roads.
Right.
To recharge EVs.
And then took the Michigan Public Service Commission and gave them basically unlimited control of where these green projects, I have to use quotations because green has got to be one of the dumbest, most ridiculous and anti-environmental ideas ever put forth. It is such a scam.
It is. And it's all a political talking point, just like COVID in general was.
Yeah.
I mean, because, look at the wind turbines. First, that was the answer.
Yeah.
I recently went downstate through the Mount Pleasant corridor, and the vast majority of those windmills
weren't
are
turning.
Off.
Yep.
Yeah, not turning.
Yeah.
So where's the expense in that compared to what we're getting out of it?
They dismantled or are dismantling the ones in Mackinac, right? Those have been up there for a while.
Those are
now.
Probably some of the oldest.
So I did a podcast shortly after Whitmer's State of the State, in which she talked about all this investment, right? Taxpayer funds, when it's investment, it's actually taxpayer funds going to promote and invest in these types of projects. One of the big ones that was also subsidized by the taxpayers, which got a lot of press and media coverage, was the Goshen battery plant.
Yep, down
China
the Rapids.
Buying up property, yada, yada. Well, it turns out that here in Gaylord, there is a company from Austin, Texas called RWE Green Project, LLC, is looking to lease a couple hundred acres or more from 2 property owners in Hayes Township.
Oh, say that's out on
for a solar
tower.
Yep. For a solar farm or a solar installation package over there.
So, and knowing that we're going to talk about this, so it doesn't take a genius to know. It's kind of like electric vehicles. It doesn't take much to figure out that they don't work. It's a bad idea, especially in rural areas.
They have some value, but in limited capacities, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you're in a metro area and commute, 25, 30 miles a day, then yeah, it's got a benefit.
Right.
But if you live in northern Michigan where you travel like most of us do, or you want to go to a tourist destination, let's say Whitefish Point and Quamanon Falls.
Right.
You're not charging your car up there and you're not getting home.
Right.
What I don't understand is why we got away from hybrid technology, which was the most efficient it's ever been. And a lot of vehicles, decent-sized vehicles, are getting 45, 50 miles a gallon, but you still had the means to get home.
Right.
You still had a gasoline-operated engine to power and charge the battery.
I have the answer to that, but please continue.
But, you're talking about these solar panels, and solar farms are supposed to be green.
Mm-hmm.
Solar panels are what color? Black.
Yep.
Which tracks the most heat. So these solar panels are actually torching and killing all the vegetation underneath them because they have to go in and clear cut everything to put the panels in. And they're generating so much damn heat that it's killing all the vegetation underneath.
Yep.
Not to mention, have you seen what happens to a solar panel with hail?
Yeah, they get broken.
Yeah. And they're not cheap to replace or repair.
Yep.
And they're damn near impossible to dispose of.
So in this podcast, what I mainly focused on was what they call the levelized cost of energy. And it's sort of this formula that some nerds came up with to try and put energy producing facilities on the same level, if you will. Hydroelectric dams, wind farms, solar farms, nuclear energy, gas generated electricity, right? So gas generated turbines, those kind of things. Compressed natural gas. And what it tries to do is say that one is more efficient than the other. The problem is in this, what they call LCOE formula, is it doesn't actually take, and really what it does is it tries to look at CO2 emissions. But what it doesn't take into effect or into account in this formula is for what they cite in the study that I talk about in the podcast. It may be, it's either from EcoWatch or it's from Mackinac Center here in Michigan.
I think it was Mackinac Center.
And basically what they say is they're not talking about a few major components of these things. And one of them is concrete and the amount of concrete that is required to go into building a wind turbine, the amount of concrete, even for this solar farm here.
Well, look at the size of those turbines.
They're insane.
Yeah.
What it costs to smelt the metals, to mine the minerals and the chemicals for photovoltaic cells.
And which are very toxic. Solar panels are
immensely
very
toxic, right? And then the continuing fossil fuels that are required to either replace those PV panels. They say they're supposed to be good for, I think, 15 to 20 years. They're finding they're good for 7.
And I think the vast majority of them are bought from China.
They cannot be recycled.
No. That's just
wind turbine blades cannot be recycled.
Same with EV batteries.
EV batteries cannot be recycled. They're putting them in the wind turbine blades. They're just putting in landfills. They're stockpiling batteries right now because they're hoping they can come up with some technology to remediate some of those toxic chemicals.
How about you refine or develop that technology before you bring it to market?
That usually is what happens in a free market, but that's not what we have in this instance. And like you mentioned before with the hybrid, the reason why the hybrids are no longer a thing is because government stepped in and manipulated the free market, mainly in the way of subsidies.
Yep.
And trying to push the entire electric vehicle idea and getting away from fossil fuels. They said we need to push the pedal, pardon the pun, on this whole green initiative, and hybrids aren't going to get us there quick enough.
Yeah.
Because remember, there is global warming and the temperature is rising
due to solar panels.
Because of me and you driving our big trucks and fossil fuels.
Not the solar panels that are heating up so much that they're killing the vegetation.
So, what I have found out, and I had lunch with a couple the other day from Hayes Township, this RWE Green Project LLC is pressuring some landowners into signing easement agreements or setback agreements. Basically saying the landowners across the street from you or next to you on parcel whatever are planning to build a solar development, yada, yada, yada. We're willing to give you a 250-foot setback. So we won't cut any trees within 250 feet of the easement, yada, yada, whatever. Well, that seems awfully well and nice of them to offer that. Are they offering anybody else that? Any of the other neighbors? And why are they offering that? If it's supposed to be such a great enhancement.
And it's truly good for the environment. It's green.
It's truly good for the environment. What these folks are running into is they're finding out a lot of interesting things about solar farms, photovoltaic cells, mainly as it relates to land property value.
Yeah, who wants to pay top market value for something that has that eyesore?
Right.
And they're hideous. I mean, if you look there, down by Cadillac, there's a pretty big one.
Yeah.
Everywhere you see them, they're hideous.
They're awful. They have tons of environmental impact studies on those as far as the surroundings, the wildlife. Then we can talk about during a hailstorm, what happens to those chemicals when they fall onto the ground, leach into the soil, right? These poor folks, we have problems enough with PFAS in Crawford County around Camp Grayling, which, by the way, I just found out about an hour ago. Guess what they're installing?
Solar farms?
Solar panels. As if Camp Grayling doesn't, and I love Camp Grayling. We do tons of catering for those guys and gals in Camp Grayling. Not trying to knock them. I'm knocking the people that are in charge of cleaning up the chemicals around Camp Grayling that they haven't been, the PFAS and all kinds of stuff. So thankfully they didn't allow that expansion either. But back to my original point, what I'm finding is that this RWE Green Project LLC, this solar farm company out of Austin, Texas, is leasing all of this property right in Hayes Township. Most of it, I believe all of it actually, is zoned agriculture.
And it's also my understanding that we, as in the people of Gaylord and Otsego County, are not going to benefit from that farm.
That is my understanding. We won't get any benefit from the energy created or distributed from it. Really what the township as a whole or as a government entity, what it sounds like to me, and I wasn't at the last township board, but I heard it was very well attended, and the general consensus is that community does not want a solar farm in their backyards. And the township is hanging their hat on two things. One, we're going to get tremendous tax benefits, tax revenue from that acreage. And golly gee, folks, I'm sorry, but the Michigan Public Service Commission is going to have the ultimate say whether you want it or not. And I say we because they're proposing one kind of right next door to us over on the old Georgia Pacific site there.
Yep.
So this is going to play out all over northern Michigan.
Could you imagine the glaring light coming off the thing on people on I-75?
Unreal. So what I'm concerned about is these folks pressuring these property owners into signing these easement agreements and basically hushing them. All the while, the township, it seems, as an entity, now I'm not trying to speak for the township officials, but one in particular seems like she's going way out of her way
to push it
and get this done, while the majority of her constituents and residents right there in Hayes Township don't want that. So we're trying to figure out, like, why am I involved in all of this? Well, the reason why is because this is another agency that is taking tremendous control away from the local officials.
And ultimately the people.
And we've got great county commissioners here, and it should be up to the county commissioners and the townships to create their own zoning and things of that nature to decide if they want that. The Michigan Public Service Commission should have nothing to say about it until we agree or disagree to not have that development there.
Well, and it's a shame, though, too, as you and I have both learned over the past couple of years, through some of those good county commissioners, that a lot of the people behind the scenes don't want there to be change. They want to be able to do what they want to do without answering.
The rubber stamp is way easier than having to sit there for an extra hour and listen.
They want bobbleheads that'll just pass through anything they ask for and anything they do.
Yeah, and we've had quite a few.
And same with the city of Gaylord.
True.
I mean, decisions that make absolutely no sense are just executed without any accountability.
Right. Well, the money's there. We might as well spend it.
Yeah. I mean, I think if the general public knew how bad things were within the county, as well as in the city, as far as the bureaucracy, and as far as the greed and the hidden agendas, they'd be disgusted.
Yeah.
I mean,
I agree.
I tell you this much: when you and I have talked about this before, when it comes time to get in the voting booth, I'm not approving a damn millage. I'm not voting for one of them.
No, we've got too many. They need to start doing more with what they've got. And it's easy for me to sit here and say that, but listen, I run a small business, and we've got several small business owners on that commission now that are just kind of getting some things going. And this is going to be a big deal. This solar development, and by the way, a battery storage facility is also proposed for that same township.
Well, and
so there are some federal infrastructure dollars coming in to fund these projects. I know it.
Well, and talking about infrastructure, so who's going to pay our fire department to be trained on putting out battery fires?
Right.
Who's paying for that training?
Or remediating all of the chemicals after we get a hailstorm like we just had here 4 days ago.
Mm-hmm. Who's going to provide the storage?
What's interesting to me is in reading, and I have copies of the agreements from RWE that they're literally pressure almost daily. They're pressuring these residents into signing these agreements. And I'm trying to say, hold off as long as you can. Let's see how the consensus is of your neighbors, and let's talk about this and see what we can get done, because there is no ordinance or zoning for them right now. So we have the ability to go to the zoning board and the commissioners we were just talking about with the Hayes Township residents and say, hold on, we don't want any of this.
Yeah, we don't
want them to buy the property. We don't want residents to be able to lease to these projects, because what I'm also finding out is a lot of times the companies that develop these farms, if we can call them that, I think that's BS too.
I think
it's not a farm.
No.
Right? It grows nothing. These folks that build them generally end up selling them within 5 years. So they build it. It's like building an apartment complex, and I'll own it for a few years,
sell it off,
get it full up, and then I'm going to sell it off.
Yep, going to flip it.
Right? It's an asset for these people, and unfortunately, it's an asset sitting on top of some pretty valuable land up north.
Well, and it's ultimately been shown that it's failed technology.
Yeah,
it's flawed.
That is a whole other thing in and of itself, right? We could sit here for another hour and talk about how terrible, and we already have said a little bit, but that just goes to show you how ingrained the idea of how good solar technology is for us. And then you can't even have the conversation with how many days of actual good sunshine that we do get.
That'll actually generate maximum results.
Right. So you know what happens? They plan these things out with X amount of panels based on getting so much gigawatts. 2 years down the road, well, we're not getting the wattage that we need. Let's build another 15, 20, 50 acres and expand and expand and expand.
Until we get the production we want.
Until they get whatever it is that they're looking for, or makes it profitable enough
to flip
to sell. Exactly.
And the funny thing is, you know what that nobody is talking about, and Glenn Beck has pointed this out several times, is that the safest, cleanest form of energy, which is nuclear, they've gone out of their way to shut down and close and eradicate, when it truly is the safest and cleanest form of energy.
Yeah, it is. And this Mackinac Center article that does a great job of explaining this really proves that nuclear energy is actually the least, how do I want to say this? It is the energy source that requires the least amount of CO2 emissions to build.
Mm-hmm.
And then the amount of energy that you get out of it after that far outweighs solar and wind and even hydroelectric.
And coal.
Hydroelectric takes a massive amount of concrete, which is a ton of earthen material and the CO2 to mine it and to put it all together and to all these other things. So that's what Mackinac Center did in this thing, is they really leveled the playing field, which is what LCOE was originally supposed to do, but it skewed everything towards, what do you know, solar and wind development.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons.
For what they're selling.
Right? For obvious reasons. That's where federal dollars were all funding these dumbass projects that we know now are basically just failing.
Dumbass projects like a roundabout?
Like, well, listen, the last thing I'll say on all of it is, you want solar panels on your house? Go for it. I'm all for that. You want a personal wind turbine generator on your home? Great.
Yeah, it's
but
yours.
At scale, it is a natural disaster waiting to happen.
Well,
so this is going to be a big issue that I'm following. We're going to keep following. Because it sounds like it's sort of another Goshen kind of thing where the township is in favor of it and the residents are not. And
in Goshen, the residents have been winning.
Absolutely. And they're holding those elected officials to account, is what I love. I think they removed some of them. They found out there's been some kickbacks involved there. And I'm not suggesting that's what's going on in Hayes, but that last township meeting that they had was very well attended. And I expect the next one to also be really well attended. And I think people are going to start recording some of these meetings and really bringing transparency.
The general consensus of the entire community, from what I personally have gathered, is that nobody in this county is in favor of these solar farms.
Yeah.
Nobody wants them.
They're just being so coy. I mean, we haven't even seen a site plan. They're asking these folks to sign an easement agreement or a setback agreement, and they haven't even seen any kind of proposed site plan. They keep saying, we'll have one. We'll have one at the next meeting. We'll have one.
Yeah, let's talk about that before we talk about signing over rights.
Exactly.
Land rights.
Right. So to me, it just smells really, really fishy with the way they're being pressured and the way that the township, as a government entity, is sort of acting and kind of dismissing the wishes of the citizens. So we're going to keep an eye on it. We actually may host a meeting at the restaurant next week, Thursday, 6 o'clock. I say may. We're going to.
I would say it sounds like it's more going to happen.
Sort of in the fashion that we did with the mask mandate cases, when so many people had questions and nobody was giving them any kind of answers. Not that I have the answers. I just want to get like-minded people together to say, listen, this is, I think, what we can do, and this is how we can sort of attack this issue moving forward. Because, again, it's going to play out in way more localities.
Yeah, it's just have a basic, from our experience, this is where you should all get together and where it should go next.
Right, exactly.
Because, I mean, the people of Hayes Township that are working there are ultimately have to answer to the constituents.
Right.
But a lot of people don't realize that that's the case. They think they can just do whatever they want, and they're powerless.
And we're going to see exactly the power that the Michigan Public Service Commission has and has taken or was given. And we're going to see, again, that's an agency. It's an executive branch agency. And I love going after them some bitches.
No.
Well, that's why I'm keen on this, and because I vehemently disagree with it. So keep your eye on that. That's a big development that's happening up here, and I don't want it to be swept under the rug like it seems like the township and this RWE company is trying to do. So
yeah, I mean, you hear little rumblings here and there, but nobody really wants to talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're going to try and bring some light to it. I was on Justin Barclay's show down in Detroit talking about it the other day, and his phone has been already ringing off the hook about it. So we're going to see. We got some mailers out there. We'll see. So anybody that's interested, join us here at the Iron Pig Thursday, 6 o'clock next week. This coming week coming up. We'll try and get together, get as much information together as possible. Not just me, but some other folks have some information to bring as well. So we can kind of get everybody as informed. And I invite the government officials to come too. I'm going to reach out to RWE and see if they're going to show up, because they got a real good line of bullshit.
Oh, that'd be fun.
I've heard some of it.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
So, I'd be keen to ask them a few questions too. But a couple of things I want to mention before we take off. A good friend of mine, James Dixon. If you follow him, you should follow him on Twitter at Down I-75. He started a new podcast called the Michigan Enjoyer Podcast. We did an interview maybe about a month and a half ago now, maybe, in preparation for their new podcast coming out. And it's probably one of the best overall sort of encapsulations of the whole Iron Pig saga, if you will. He's got some great commentary at the front of the podcast, and the interview is sort of at the end. But I just wanted to give a shout out to the Enjoyer, James Dixon, those guys. If you want to watch another podcast that's about Michigan and Michigan topics and sort of local kind of journalism, if you will, follow those guys. James has been doing it for a while. And
you mean real journalism, not like what we see in a local paper?
Yeah, real stories, real journalism,
real answers, real questions.
Yeah, and then they don't take themselves too seriously, so I mean it's
not overly biased.
Not hard news necessarily, but they're definitely discussing some important topics, and then like I said, they do some other fun stuff as well. Like jokingly the other day, one of them was about how to spot a tourist up north.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's wildly entertaining to us up here. I mean, it's very entertaining. So I just want to give him a shout out to that, the Enjoyer Podcast. I want to mention the handle. I believe it is at MICH_enjoyer. So Mish_enjoyer. Go follow them. Check them out. Great podcast. And then Kaylee McGee White, who is also part of that program. So they have a magazine, like an online magazine portion. And we did an interview a little bit after with James that is also featured in the magazine. So check these guys out. Always try to help out when anytime a new podcast gets started. We always love to try and plug those guys. And not just because they did a story on me and the Iron Pig. It's nothing to do with that. These people have very successful careers in journalism. They don't need little me and Chris to be plugging their stuff. But it is great content to check out. And I'm honored to be their most watched episode to date and featured in both the magazine and on the podcast. So thank you guys. I appreciate you helping us getting the story out there, because our dozens and dozens of followers subscribers, as we like to joke,
which includes you and I.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I created at least 6 accounts just so I could follow our YouTube page. I'm kidding. What else? Boy, I think that's it. I got the one of your favorite T-shirts on.
I get more comments on that shirt. I had 3 last night.
They are great.
We were at another shout out. We were at Dave Delaney's fundraising event last night.
Yeah,
great turnout. A lot of people showing up to support him.
Yep, running for probate judge here in Otsego County.
And Open Fest, I wore that shirt and actually had somebody take a picture with me to send it to a friend of theirs.
I love it.
So I think I'm up to around about a dozen comments in 2 days.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, anybody wants to get any of our gear, go to ironpigmerch.com. These, more, all kinds of stuff right there. Barbecue sauce, rubs, all that stuff. Ironpigmerch.com. Thank you for tuning in, my brother. Thank you as always. Always good to chat about local stuff and crazy times that we live in.
Again, you can't make this shit up. Every time you turn on the news or every time you hear something, you can't make this shit up.
Nope. And it's always good to laugh about it.
Otherwise you cry.
Laugh about. I mean, yeah, some of this stuff is kind of mad. I always like to joke. This final season of America sure is shaping up to be an entertaining one. And the last few episodes have been just fascinating to watch, let me just say.
Yeah, and getting better.
And it just keeps getting better. Anyways, we laugh and jest. But anyways, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out, buddy.
You bet.
If you don't follow us at Fuelcast TV. You can find all of our episodes for Risk It for the Brisket podcast at fuelcasttv.com. And anything Iron Pig, ironpigsmoke.com, ironpigmerch.com. Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, my brother.
You bet.
See you later.